Hello, loves. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Woo! Okay. I haven't been on YouTube in a hot minute. I feel like there's so much to catch up on, so much to talk about, but for today, I want to focus on talking about hormones and talking about hormone health and just how all of that is going. If any of you have been following me on social media, you know that hormones have been a huge topic for me lately. It's something I've been talking about a lot. It's something I've been asking questions of a lot. And it's something that I just have been really interested in and focused on. So that's what today's video is about. But I have a bunch more videos planned for this month. I had the pleasure of participating in Kenzie Brenna's Self-Love Bootcamp through the month of September. So again, if you guys follow me on other social media channels, you probably saw me posting a lot on Instagram and maybe even a little bit on Facebook about doing that bootcamp. And there were just a lot of challenges in there that were all about kind of self-love and also talking about media literacy and just kind of like, I don't know, I feel like it's hard to describe and kind of encompass everything that we talked about in boot camp, just because part of the magic of boot camp was that you just got to connect with people via social media and just talk about things that were most relevant to you. So there were a lot of people who participated in boot camp who were recovering from eating disorders or even still currently struggling with eating disorders and pursuing help for those and kind of using self-love boot camp as a supplement to their treatment. And so I always love getting to connect with women who are going through things like that and hearing their brave stories and all of that, even though I can't relate to having an eating disorder and feeling that way. But all in all, it was an incredible experience, but that took up like a big chunk of my social media time. I try to kind of limit how much time I'm spending on social media just to make sure I'm staying connected with the rest of the world and also making sure that I'm like doing my job when I'm at work and things like that. So I put YouTube and all of this kind of on pause, and now I'm ready to come back and do this again. And following that, I had another opportunity, which was to go to Salem and meet with Callie. And I will link to all of Callie's channels below, but Callie is this amazing girl that I actually connected with in college. She used to run this Twitter chat that was called Creative Coffee Hour. And so it was a chat for creatives to talk about their projects, talk about creativity, and just kind of get to know one another. And so we connected through that, and I just thought that she was like the coolest. And at the time she was running a blog, and I loved her blog, and yeah, I don't know, I just have like continued to follow her story even as her role on social media has kind of changed. And she has always been like a creative coach, and now she does PR as her actual job, her day job. And so anyway, I got to go have a session with her, and we sat down at this adorable little coffee shop, and she helped me really hone in on what I wanted to be doing with the creative side of my life and how I wanted to do it and how I wanted to present it. And it was just such a rewarding experience, and it also made me realize that like I really miss YouTube and I really miss doing this when I'm not doing it. So just know that even if there are times where I'm not posting a lot of content, I miss you guys, you know? I think that it's okay to have that balance and to maybe to not always have the most consistent posting schedule, but I'm going to try to be more consistent about it through these next few months because I don't have any other social media stuff to take up bandwidth. So anyway, with all of that said, I want to focus on two big topics this month. Number one being hormones, just because that's been big in my life lately. And then number two, I want to revisit this topic that I brought up a couple months ago, which was talking about fitness and focusing on fitness in a way that was also bringing in self-love and kind of focusing on fitness as like a way to love myself rather than fitness as a way to like just lose weight or just do something because I felt like I was feeling pressured to do it by society. So that topic and those videos that I made about that were really, really rewarding for me and have been helping me a lot. So I wanted to jump back into doing some of those. So that's what you have to look forward to this month. And new thing that we're doing this month is actually going to be a book review. So I'll talk about that more in this video. But to get started talking about hormones, again, a lot of you have probably seen this on social media already because I've been talking about it on pretty much all of my channels, and I even talked about it a little bit on YouTube already. But a quick recap is that I kind of just had like a bunch of different messages about hormones come up. Like I had a lot of friends, I call them my in real life friends, but like friends that I know personally who went through really big hormone issues. Either they were trying to get pregnant and they couldn't get pregnant because of hormone issues, or I had a friend who was pregnant and she almost lost her baby because her hormones went crazy during her pregnancy. And then on top of that, I just was seeing a lot of like social media influencers that I love to follow who were talking about going through their own hormone issues. Two of my favorite YouTubers, one of them, her name is Emily Duncan, and she's a fitness YouTuber, but she's been talking a lot about her journey with PCOS. And then she also has a podcast called Embody Radio. And she's been bringing on a lot of experts to talk about hormone health and even specifically PCOS and things like that. So I've been following her story really closely, and it's been really, really fascinating and really enlightening and also empowering to just kind of hear that I wasn't the only one who was kind of like worried about my hormone health. And then also Hannah Witton, I hope I'm pronouncing her name right, but she's a British YouTuber, and she has this amazing series. It's called The Hormone Diaries. And in it, she talks about coming off of the birth control pill. She talks about different birth control options. She's super sex positive and has like relationship experts and talks about a lot of topics related to like female sexuality and hormone health and like all that kind of stuff on her channel. So hers was another video series that I really loved kind of as I was entering this hormone realm. So anyway, I'll link to both of their channels down below. So yeah, and then I guess I kind of had this aha moment of realizing that I had never really learned very much about my hormones, or like I didn't really have a good understanding of like what their role was with my body, and I just heard everybody saying like hormone health is important, and I was kind of like, it probably is, but why? Like I really want to know the why behind why it's so important. So anyway, so I started jumping in and doing some research, and then I decided to switch from using the birth control pill to using an IUD, the non-hormonal IUD, so it's the copper IUD, as my birth control method. And I filmed a video about that. I actually have filmed a lot of videos about that transition, and I wound up trashing all of them because by the end of them they felt super like preachy. Like it was just like me sitting in front of the camera and like telling the camera like how to best take care of your hormone health. And that's not really me, because I'm not a hormone expert by any means, so I shouldn't really be like preaching to people about how to take care of their hormones. Struggling with that word today. But also just because I feel like I always take the stance of, our bodies are all so unique and individual that you really have to find what works for you. And sometimes you need to do that with the help of a professional, depending on what you're going through. So yeah, so I wound up getting rid of that video footage. So here I am, we're going to try this again, and I'm just going to take it from kind of the top and talk about my hormone journey and what resources I've liked so far and what resources I want to continue to learn from when it comes to hormones. So, switch from birth control to the copper IUD, and that decision for me came from when I first started learning about hormone health. I was like, okay, I want to understand how the birth control pill works. So I did a bunch of research into that, and honestly, there were some really great articles that I read on Bustle's website, on Clue's website. For you guys who don't know, Clue is an app that helps you to track your cycle. So, and they also have a blog that's pretty good. It has like pretty short, like broken down articles about reproductive health, and I found them to be really helpful. So I'll link to both of those sites down below. But those are the two articles or two websites that kind of stuck out to me during my research. And basically, I learned that when you are on the birth control pill, when you have a period, normally you have like the 3 weeks of colored pills that you take, and then there's like a week at the bottom of white pills that you take that are the placebo pills or sugar pills or whatever you call them. And I always thought that when I was taking the placebo pills, that what that was basically that was like the time when that it was just coinciding with my cycle magically. And so then it was like you took placebo pills during your period because there was already no chance that you were going to get pregnant on your period, which I know sounds ridiculous because you can't, I don't even know. I don't know where this logic came from. Probably from the fact that I never researched this or learned about any of it. I just was like making these assumptions that my birth control was like magic and just, I never put any thought into it. So anyway, basically I learned that when you have a period when you're on the birth control pill, you're not actually having a period in the traditional sense. What you're having is a withdrawal bleed, because basically the way that birth control functions is it's giving you a dose of hormones that is saying to your body that it doesn't need to go through the normal cycles of getting your body ready to get pregnant, and then when you're not pregnant, getting rid of that egg and shedding the lining of your uterus and then re-prepping everything to get pregnant again. And the way that it does that is by basically giving your body enough, the amount of hormones that you would have if you had already started to be pregnant. So basically, the birth control pill, and again, I'm not an expert on any of this. This is my synopsis from research that I did from reading things. But basically, the birth control pill tells your body that you're pregnant so that your body doesn't do the stuff that it needs to do to make you fertile and get you ready to be pregnant. So when you take the placebo pill at the end of the month, what happens is you're no longer getting that dose of hormones, so your body goes, ooh, I'm actually not pregnant, so I better get rid of anything that's in the uterus and start my cycle or my process of getting ready to have a baby. But then when you get to the end of the placebo pills, you start taking the hormones again, and so then again it's telling your body that you don't need to actually get ready to get pregnant because you are pregnant again. So that kind of freaked me out, honestly. I was like, I don't feel like that doesn't seem like a good thing to do to my body over and over. It's like, I almost felt like I was like tricking it in some way. And I don't mean that as like a judgment against the birth control pill. I get that, especially for women who have really painful ovulations and who have really painful cycles and all of that kind of stuff. Sometimes the birth control pill is a really great option. And I have a couple of friends who, their health professional has told them that the birth control pill is really the best option for them. So this isn't in any way a judgment on people who are using the birth control pill, but it just, like, actually understanding the way that it was working freaked me out, basically. But I think that I probably could have dealt with the fact that I wasn't having a, quote, real period during the end of the month, but the fact that there are also a lot of other pieces of your cycle that go away on the birth control pill, including ovulation. You don't ovulate when you're on the pill, because again, your body doesn't feel like it needs to because it thinks that you are already pregnant. It just weirded me out. And then another big piece for me was that I went on the birth control pill when I was 14 because I was having really bad, really painful, really emotional cycles. And so my doctor at the time prescribed birth control, and I went on it, and I've switched kinds a couple of times in my life, but for the most part, I've just been on the birth control pill since I was 14. So as I was reading about the birth control pill, it talks about all of these things that it can affect. It can affect your moods, it can affect anxiety, it can affect depression, it can affect your sex drive, it can affect your body weight. It's so many things, because those are all things that are controlled or heavily influenced by your hormones. So because you're giving your body this outside dose of hormones, there's always a chance that they're going to affect all of these other things. And then I also saw a lot of research that indicated that you can be at higher risk of breast cancer if you're taking the birth control pill. And then also, obviously, there's the health risk as well as it's easier to get blood clots when you're on the birth control pill. So all of those things kind of came together in my head, and I was just like, you know what, the birth control pill, I don't want to do it anymore. I don't want to be on the hormones. I want to know what my body is going to do when I go off. So I went to my doctor, I told her all of this, and she said, no. And I said, what? And she said, no, you should not go off of the birth control pill, because if you've had really heavy, really bad cycles in the past, the likelihood of those coming back if you go off of the pill are really, really high. And I was kind of like, I don't know. I'm not comfortable with the fact that I've never really known what my body does when it's not on birth control, because I got my period, I think when I was 12 or 13, so I had barely even started to cycle when I got put on the birth control pill. So I'm just like, So then she was like, well, look, here's a good compromise. What you could do is you could get one of the IUDs that uses hormones. So it's a much lower dose of hormone because it's just inserted into your uterus. So instead of having to give you enough hormone to make it through your whole body and then be in your uterus as well, it's just enough hormone to just stay there in your uterus. Or that's my understanding of how it works. And so she was like, you could just do that instead. So I was like, okay, well, let me think about it. So I left and I thought about it, and I just came back to the conclusion that I was never going to know whether or not I could let my body just have its normal hormone cycle and live with it unless I tried it. So I made the decision to do the copper IUD. So I went back in, got the IUD put in. A piece of me wants to tell the story about getting the IUD put in, and a piece of me doesn't, because what I've heard both from healthcare professionals as well as just from talking to people that I know who have the IUD is that the experience of getting it put in is really, really varied from person to person. For some people, it's extremely painful. For some people, it's slightly uncomfortable. So it's I don't really want to scare anybody away from doing it or I don't want to sit here and be like, oh yeah, it wasn't that bad, and then have other women who have the IUD be like, what are you talking about? So what I will say about it is that, sorry, there's a fly in my kitchen, and he really likes me. What I'll say about getting the IUD put in is that it was extremely uncomfortable for me personally, but after having it now for a couple of months, it's 1000% worth it. I would recommend it, honestly, just based off of my experience, because there's so much that I love about it. I feel like it's going to be hard to put that into one video, but the benefit is that I don't have to worry about taking a pill every night, so I don't have to worry about packing my pill when I'm going somewhere or staying the night somewhere. I don't have to worry about it. I don't have to worry about reordering my birth control pill. I don't have to worry about running out of my birth control pill. I still wake up sometimes at night. Sometimes I'll go to bed and then I'll wake up and be like, oh my God, I'm forgetting something really important. And it takes me a minute to realize that it's my brain trying to tell me to take my birth control pill, and also that I don't have to take my birth control pill anymore. And then I'm like, oh yeah, okay. So all of that convenience is really, really nice. The other really nice part is that I have seen my body go back now and to a normal hormone cycle. So I'm going to talk about that in a second. And I also have noticed, I've only been off of the pill for a couple of months now, but I definitely have noticed that when I fall into periods of feeling anxious or depressed, that they seem to be a lot shorter than they have been in the past. I think the true test is going to be this winter, because normally I struggle the most with my depression when it's darker outside, just because not having the natural sunlight really hits me kind of hard. So this will be an interesting season to go through. But all in all, I've really loved being on the copper IUD so far. What was really interesting to me was I had a lot of friends come forward and tell me that they used the natural family planning method instead of a traditional birth control. So natural family planning just means that as a woman, you're tracking your cycle closely enough to know exactly when you're ovulating, and then you only use protection when you are ovulating, and then you don't worry about it the rest of the time. And I thought that was so interesting. And also, these are all women who are married and have had children already, and et cetera, et cetera. So I'm not recommending unprotected sex by any means. I think that protection is always the way to go. But it was interesting to hear from these women who have consistent partners, who are married, who, all of these things that that was their birth control method that they were using. And I thought about it because I was like, I really want to do it that way and not get the IUD because it sounds painful to get the IUD. So I considered it for a hot minute, and then I was like, no, I just don't trust myself enough to like keep close enough track of my cycle. And I've never seen my cycle before. I've never seen anything other than just the withdrawal bleed from being on the pill. So I thought it would be really hard to know whether or not I was ovulating and like what stage I was in. I was like, I don't know. It seems very mysterious to me. And now that I'm not on the pill, I can see how people do it because it's pretty easy to tell after a while what phase you're in. But I just thought that I would throw that out there because it's something that I didn't even know that people did until I started talking about birth control, and then had multiple people raise their hand and be like, oh yeah, I hate birth control, so I don't use it, I just track my cycle. And I was like, what? So anyway, long story short, I am loving not being on the birth control pill. I have noticed that I have to do more upkeep of my hormones. So I have some critical supplements that I've been taking to help support my hormones. And then also, of course, I have essential oils that I've been using to support my hormones. And then I've noticed also I can really tell when my hormones are affected by my diet. So I've always kind of been pretty sensitive to how my body reacts to eating certain things, but now that I am not taking any synthetic hormones, I can notice like the next day after I've eaten something that my hormones don't really like and don't respond well to. So that has been really interesting. And I want to go into like more details on that stuff at some point, but before I film that, I wanted to throw out there that I am totally open about talking about any of this stuff, and any questions that you guys have, I would love to answer them. So I want to do a Q&A this month and just collect people's questions, and then I'll answer those specific questions and also kind of go into more detail about what my routine is for taking care of my hormones now at the end of October. So if you have questions that whether it's about getting the IUD, whether it's about other types of birth control methods, obviously keep in mind I'm not a healthcare professional, so I can't like advise you on which type you should use or anything like that. But if you have questions about like why I didn't pick a certain kind, or why I chose the copper IUD as my birth control, or anything like that, if you have questions about how I like to support my hormones, anything that you want to ask me, please feel free. You can leave your question in the comments below. You can tweet at me. You can message me on Instagram. And I know that sometimes it can feel a little bit weird to talk about this stuff, especially in a public forum like social media. So if you have a question that you want to ask, but you want to ask it anonymously, that's totally cool. Just let me know when you send me a message that you want to stay anonymous, and I won't shout out your name when I'm doing these questions. So yeah, and then last but not least in this video, I want to talk about this book. So this book is called Woman Code, and this was by far the most highly recommended book to me when I was talking about wanting to know more about hormones. It's called Woman Code: Perfect Your Cycle, Amplify Your Fertility, Supercharge Your Sex Drive, and Become a Power Source. So reading that out loud is hard for me because I feel like it sounds really kind of kitschy and corny. But again, I received so many recommendations about this book, so I can't wait to dive in and read it, honestly, because I feel like even if it is ridiculous, I'll get a good laugh out of it. But I would invite you. It's available on Amazon. It's available in every local bookstore that I've been to lately. It's available on Kindle, so if you guys want to read along with me, I would love that. And then at the end of the month, I'm going to do like a synopsis on it and talk about that in conjunction with the Q&A on hormones. So read the book, Woman Code. It's by, I am not going to try to pronounce this woman's name, but it's by Elisa Vitti. Sorry, Elisa, if I just butchered your name, because it looks like a pretty name. But read the book. Leave your hormones questions down below if you have them. Tweet at me, Instagram me, etc. And then we'll revisit the topic of hormones at the end of this month. So thanks you guys for watching this. I'm excited to be back on YouTube. If you want to be alerted about new videos coming out, don't forget to hit the subscribe button down below. If you liked this video and you like talking about hormones on YouTube like I do, then hit the thumbs up button. If you don't like talking about hormones on YouTube, you can also hit the thumbs down button. But to those people, I would just say, just don't watch it. So anyway, I will see you again next week. Bye, guys.